My new coworker is my former bully, and she brings up the story in the office like a funny story. So the HR called her in the conference and left the room crying. I never thought I'd see her again, but there she was, Krista, my old college bully, now my new coworker. She didn't recognize me at first, which was fine. I had no plans to dredge up the past. But then during lunch, she started telling people about the funny story from college, how she set me up, humiliated me in front of everyone, made my life hell for months. I kept my mouth shut, but I wasn't about to let her rewrite history. I went to HR, laid it all out, the pranks, the harassment, how she turned me into a running joke. I wasn't looking for revenge, just making sure if she ever twisted the story, they knew the truth. That afternoon, Krista got called into a meeting. She walked in all smiles, but when she saw me sitting with HR and my supervisor, her face dropped. She tried to downplay it, just a misunderstanding, but HR shut that down fast. They made it clear this wasn't a story to be passed around the office. She nodded, looking pale, and the meeting ended. I thought that would be it, but at lunch the next day, a coworker smirked and said, "So I heard a story about you and Krista," before my supervisor cut them off. "You, conference room, now." Minutes later, HR stormed in, looking furious. By 3 p.m., 4 more people had been pulled in. When they finally walked out, Krista's eyes were red. No one spoke to her. The office moved on like nothing happened, but I knew she got the message.
What scary gut feeling did you have that turned out to be true? I was sitting in my college lecture, half listening, half counting the minutes until class was over. Then, out of nowhere, I got this feeling, like something was pulling me back to my dorm. No reason, no logic behind it, just a weird, uneasy gut feeling that I needed to leave. I tried to shake it off, but it wouldn't go away. I wasn't sick, I wasn't missing anything important, but something in me said, go back now. So I did. I shared my dorm with my best friend. We'd known each other since middle school, and always had each other's backs. My girlfriend and I have been together for 4 years now. I thought she was my future. I had plans. I was going to ask her to move in with me after graduation. I thought I had it all figured out, but when I got to my room, I opened the door, and there they were, my best friend, my girlfriend, together. I didn't need details. I didn't need excuses. I just stood there watching everything I believed about them unravel in real time. It felt like a punch to the gut, but at the same time, I wasn't even shocked. Like somewhere deep down, I already knew. I didn't say anything. I just turned around and left. I don't know why I got that feeling that day, but I'm grateful for it. It saved me from wasting my future on someone who never really cared. If I hadn't walked in at that exact moment, who knows how long I would have been blind to it.
My town was so racist, they accidentally made me a millionaire. My dad raised me by himself in a really rough neighborhood. He worked 2 jobs, which he barely struggled to keep since we were pretty much the only 2 black people around. Then, he suddenly passed away one night from a brain aneurysm, and a week later, I got a check in the mail. My dad had been saving to move us somewhere safer and left me $15,000. I couldn't believe the number I was seeing was real. I had no idea what to do with it, so I walked as carefully as I could to the bank. However, the second I walked in, something seemed off. I showed the check to the teller, and as soon as he read it, he called security. The cops showed up and arrested me, saying I stole that money. Thankfully, the lawyer that helped me was not only able to get me free, but told me I was about to get a huge payday. He helped me personally sue the bank, and I ended up with way more than that check. I thought that was it, but then shit got crazy. A month later, I used some of that money to buy a nice car, and within the first 2 days of having it, 2 cops pulled me over. They questioned where I got it, while keeping one hand on their hip. They didn't even bother checking to see if I owned the car, and out of nowhere, they told me to step out and put my hands up. They arrested me and took me to jail, even leaving me with a few bruises in the process. I called the same lawyer from before, and a month later, neither of us will ever work again.
My son lied to his teacher and got me arrested. Yesterday, my daughter called me from her school, saying she was worried about me. Apparently, a man pulled her out of class and asked her a ton of questions, including if I'm a good mother or ever put my hands on her when she doesn't want me to. I knew something was up, so I immediately got in the car to go pick my kids up from school. Her 7-year-old brother said the same thing. My daughter was scared, but he thought the whole thing was funny and couldn't stop laughing while telling me about it. When we got back to our house, police were waiting outside, and before I could even get a word in, they put me in handcuffs and took me to the station. They told me I was under arrest for mistreating my kids. Apparently, the allegations were that I lock my son in the closet all night when he misbehaves, don't give him any food, and have no electricity. I couldn't believe my eyes. I begged them to believe this wasn't true, and they said they had to investigate first. Well, since these claims were obviously false, I was released soon after, and when I went home, I got the full story. Apparently, my son was mad at me that day because I made him get off Fortnite and go to bed the night before. He went to school and said all of those things to his teacher as a joke. Then she called CPS on me. When the social worker came and asked him if those things were true, he said yes. My daughter put a boy in the hospital, and I've never been prouder. My daughter was in her junior year, getting something from her locker in between classes, when the captain of the football team walked by and smacked her on the butt. She grew up with 3 brothers, so when she realized what this kid had just done, she turned around and kicked him in the balls as hard as she possibly could. She came home and told me what had happened, and I was surprised I hadn't got a call from her school yet. Just as she finished telling me about it, our phone rang, and it was her assistant principal asking me to come meet with the boy's parents. The next day, we went to the office, and there they were. Apparently, he had to go to the doctor right after. She had kicked him so hard and so perfectly, he couldn't play football for a week and was struggling to walk. His father wanted her suspended and was planning to sue us for assault. We all watched the security camera footage together, as we could clearly see him put his hands on her uninvited. Apparently, when he told his dad what happened, he left that part out. Then we all got to witness my daughter turn around and land the most perfectly executed kick to the balls I've ever seen in my life. You could tell every guy in the hallway could feel his pain. We all looked at his father, and he was so pissed off he just got up and left with his son. My boyfriend got arrested, and I don't know what to do. Last night, my boyfriend and I showed up to our high school graduation party, and a random guy I had never seen before whistled and tried to hit on me. My boyfriend pushed him away, telling him to keep his hands away from me, and thankfully he stopped. He just told me to call him if I get bored. This made me super uncomfortable, but my boyfriend calmed me down. And after a few hours, we ended up in one of the closets making out. I had countless drinks by this point. My boyfriend stepped out to go to the bathroom, but when someone came back into the closet with me, I thought it was him. And when my boyfriend came back and opened the door, light shined on the same guy from earlier, trying to pull up my clothes. I screamed and started trying to push him off. My boyfriend grabbed him, and after 30 seconds, multiple people were pulling him off the guy. The entire room was silent, and after someone put their head up to his chest, he was thankfully still breathing. We quietly told the host what was happening and left, and I went to bed that night still shaking. I thought that was the last of it. However, we woke up to my mom in our room panicked, as the police were at our door. They put my boyfriend in handcuffs and told him he was being charged with aggravated assault. I tried to tell them what happened, but they took him away. Now I can't stop crying and don't know what to do.
Men, when was the last time you cried? I'm a doctor and had a woman bring her dad in because he couldn't stop throwing up blood. After running a few tests, I immediately knew what it was, and a few weeks later, I had to give him the news he had a very aggressive form of cancer. His survival chances were around 3%, and his daughter instantly started crying, constantly repeating she couldn't lose him. She started begging me to save him, saying there must be something we could do. I told her the best option would be to go through chemotherapy, but he told me he couldn't afford it. As soon as he said that, the daughter told him to stop joking around. She said she was a lawyer and could afford to pay for it herself. He tried to tell her no, but before he could even get the words out, she went on a rant about how he has always taken care of her, was always there for her when mom wasn't around, worked countless overtime to get her through college. She pleaded, "Please, Dad, just let me return the favor and take care of you this time." He started crying as he listened to her say that, and I honestly started to tear up too. He went through the treatment, and she paid for the full thing. He'd always tell me he felt horrible that his daughter was paying because he'd likely die. It took a lot of work, but a year and a half later, he survived. Getting to sit down in that same room and tell him and his daughter is the reason I became a doctor. How far will you go to protect your kids? My 7-year-old daughter started telling me she was seeing a man walking around our house at night. Every time I laughed, just passing it off as something weird that kids say. Every morning, she kept saying she heard someone sneak into our house in the middle of the night. Apparently, he'd climb through out living room window, then go upstairs and hurt my son. I thought I'd know for sure if someone had been breaking into our house, but she was starting to creep me out. That night, I made sure all the doors and windows were locked before going to bed. At 3 in the morning, my daughter ran into our room and woke us up, saying she saw him again. This time, I went straight downstairs to check if everything was still locked. When I pulled on the window, it opened, and my heart sank to my stomach. She wasn't seeing things. I rushed back to my room and grabbed my rifle before slowly creeping over to my son's room. I took a deep breath before swinging the door open, ready to fight this intruder off. Now, it was dark in there, so all I saw was what looked like a grown man grabbing my son, and I was seconds from firing. My son yelled at me to stop, and I flipped the lights on. This guy who I saw in there turned out to be much younger than I thought. Honestly, it took me a few seconds before I realized what was going on. Turns out this guy was actually my son's boyfriend.